Part 50. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 491. Xiang Yi opened the door and walked in with ease. Your Highness. I'm coming. Xiang Yi shouted into the room. In less than a second, rapid footsteps could be heard in the house. With a creak, the door opened, and Mu Qing, dressed in Xiang Yi, ran out with a look of surprise. Hey! What a rare visitor! Why did you think of me here today? Mu Qing pretended to be very calm and said. But I, an outsider, can see it clearly. Mu Qing's eyes were full of joy and excitement. Xiang Yi said, I have something to do with you. As soon as these words came out, Mu Qing's pretty face turned cold, she pointed her finger out the door and said, slowly leave. Xiang Yi quickly put on a flattering look and said, Oh! I mean your highness. It's not me begging you, it's him begging you. Xiang Yi stretched out his hand and pointed at me beside him. Only then did Mu Qing notice my presence. When she saw me, there was some surprise in her eyes. She came to me, stretched out her green-white fingers, and rubbed my hair frantically. Xiao Suzy, long time no see. I smiled slightly and said, Yes, your highness, I haven't seen you for a while. Mu Qing took back her hand and asked, Tell me, what trouble did you encounter this time? I told Mu Qing about the ancient city of Goguryeo. After hearing this, Mu Qing waved his hand and said, Just a little thing? Wait, I'll call you 30,000 yin soldiers to help you catch those evil spirits. I said with some gratitude, Thank you, your highness. Xiang Yi interrupted, Why don't you thank me? Just as I was about to speak, I saw Mu Qing reach out and pinch Xiang Yi's ears. Xiang Yi, you have to take credit for everything, right? Xiang Yi meeting Mu Qing was like a mouse meeting a cat. At this time, he was not as arrogant as before. At this moment, a Yin general walked in outside the door. General Yin first came to Mu Qing, bowed deeply, and called his highness respectfully. Then he put the realization on me and said, Lu Su, your majesty has invited me. Your majesty, please. Could it be Emperor Fendu? I glanced at Xiang Yi, and he nodded at me and said, You go ahead. It will take some time to mobilize the Yin soldiers. I was led by General Yin to a magnificent and glorious palace. Yin said to me, Your Majesty is waiting for you inside. I nodded and walked into the hall alone. As soon as I stepped into the temple, a loud man's voice sounded in my ears. You finally came. I was slightly startled, looked around, and saw a man sitting on a dragon chair directly in front of the hall. The man's face was indifferent, and he couldn't feel any sharp aura in his body. He just sat there quietly, like a pool of lake water, which no one could see through. Although the man does not exude any aura, he gives off the impression of being extremely dangerous. Emperor Fendu. It certainly lives up to its reputation. Emperor Fendu, also known as Emperor Fendu, is the god of hell and the king of hell. Simply put, he is the same as the emperor of the underworld. What do you want from me? I asked calmly to Emperor Fendu. Emperor Fendu looked at me lightly and said, I just want to meet my old friend. Old friend? Is it me? Emperor Fendu stood up and came to me. He suddenly stretched out his hand and put his index finger on my eyebrow, and then I felt a cold air flowing through my body. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 492. I was shocked, Emperor Fendu was testing my strength. I wanted to move, but the pressure he brought to me was too great. In this case, it was a luxury for me to even move a finger. After a moment, Emperor Fendu put down his hand and said with admiration, It's much stronger than I imagined. Emperor Fendu's words made me very confused. What do I have to do with this god of hell? Emperor Fendu looked at me, let out a long sigh, and said, There is not much time left for you, things are beyond my control. Only you can calm the undercurrent in the underworld. The words of Emperor Fendu made me even more confused. He returned to the dragon chair and said, "It must be very painful for you to be surrounded by evil spirits. This can be regarded as a meeting gift from me." Emperor Fendu pointed his finger at me, and immediately I felt something running out of my body. I saw ball after ball of blood-colored mist spreading from my body, and finally gathered in the hands of Emperor Fendu. "I have temporarily removed the evil spirit from your body, but due to your own fault, the evil spirit will still breed in your body. Therefore, I can only temporarily free you from the pain of the evil spirit's backlash." I was overjoyed because I didn't expect that I would get something unexpected when I came to the underworld this time. I bowed deeply to Emperor Fendu and said, "Thank you very much." Emperor Fendu waved his hand at me and said, "There is no need to be so polite between you and me. Go ahead and go about your business." I nodded and left the palace. When I left the palace, I was extremely confused. Emperor Fendu said that I don't have much time left. What is going on? There are also undercurrents from the underworld. Although I have doubts in my heart, now is not the time to think about this. I must return to the ancient city of Goguryeo as soon as possible. Not walking far, I saw countless Yin soldiers neatly arrayed in Fendu city. Xiangyi came to my side and said, "Let's go." I nodded. Mu Qing was seen arriving in front of a group of Yin soldiers. With a wave of his hand, a huge gate to the underworld appeared out of thin air. Mu Qing walked in first, followed closely by Xiangyi and me, and the Yin soldiers also entered the gate of the underworld in an orderly manner. As before, we walked in the dark for a while, and after a while, I saw a little light. As we got closer, the light grew brighter and brighter. When I walked out of the gate of the underworld, I had returned to the ancient city of Goguryeo. At this time, the entire ancient city of Goguryeo had become a ghost prison. The sound of ghosts crying and wolves howling is endless, and countless evil ghosts are hovering over the ancient city and on the streets. Suddenly, the wind is blowing, which is terrifying. I searched for Su Tianqian and others. Finally, I saw them on the street not far away. They are fighting these evil spirits. Su Tianqian also noticed me immediately. She walked towards me with a lot of steps. "Master!" I shouted to Su Tianqian. Su Tianqian came to me and didn't say a word. He just stretched out his hand and grabbed my wrist, then pinched the sword and pointed it at my wrist. Immediately afterwards, I felt as if something was being pulled out of my body by Su Tianqian. A golden light appeared on Su Tianxian's fingertips, and she threw the golden light directly into the sky. The next moment, 4 dazzling light pillars appeared in the 4 directions of the ancient city, east, west, north, and south. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 493. The pillar of light rose into the sky and enveloped the entire ancient city of Goguryeo. The golden light kept changing, and a huge magic circle appeared over the ancient city. Those fierce ghosts who wanted to escape were all isolated by the magic circle and could not break through at all. Su Tianqian looked at me and said, "Let's do it." I was startled for a moment, then nodded and looked at Mu Qing, who understood. At Mu Qing's order, 20,000 Yin soldiers came out and began to capture Wangui. I looked at the magic circle in the sky and felt a little familiar. I seemed to have seen the characteristics of this arrangement somewhere. I suddenly recalled the magic circle at Muang Reservoir. Isn't this formation technique exactly the same as the formation in Muang Reservoir? Reminiscent of what the executioner said before, a Taoist priest came here. Is it possible that the Taoist priest mentioned by the executioner and the Taoist priest in Muang Reservoir are the same person? The capture mission was carried out silently. Although there were many ghosts, they were not worth mentioning in front of the powerful Yin soldiers. At this time, Su Tianqian came to me and suddenly said, "Try if you can control this magic circle." I looked at Su Tianqian blankly and asked, "Me?" Su Tianqian nodded. I looked at the magic circle in the sky again, and suddenly felt that there seemed to be an inexplicable connection between this magic circle and me. I tentatively stretched out my hand, trying to grasp the connection between me and the magic circle. Sudden. As I stretched out my hand, the magic circle started to move. Really in control. I took a breath, my expression condensed, and countless ropes transformed by golden light fell from the sky. Looking around, it looks like a golden rain. Under my control, these golden ropes fell from the sky and directly tied up the fleeing ghosts. The activation of the magic circle relieved a lot of pressure on the Yin soldiers. The process of catching the devil lasted for more than half an hour. Half an hour later, all the evil ghosts in the entire ancient city were captured and were waiting to be sent to the gate of the underworld. Just when Mu Qing was about to order these ghosts to be sent to the underworld, the Ghost City Lord suddenly appeared. Wait a minute. I looked at the Ghost City Lord. At this time, the Ghost City Lord looked haggard. He came to me, bowed deeply to me, and said, "I want to say a few words to them." I nodded. The Lord of the Ghost City came to the people of the ancient city, and then fell to his knees with a plop. This behavior left me a little confused, but what the Ghost City Lord said next made me deeply moved. "I am a sinner. Because of my wrong decision, the city was destroyed and people died. Then I imprisoned you here without your consent to make you forget the fact that you are dead." The Ghost City Lord's voice was hoarse and his whole body was trembling. He continued, "I'm sorry, I am not a good city lord and cannot bring you a good life. Even after your death, you suffered such hardships because of me." The eyes of the fierce ghosts who had lost their minds gradually became clearer. "So, in order to make up for my mistakes, I can only die to apologize." As he said that, the Ghost City Lord raised his hand and hit himself in the chest. He wants to self-destruct his spiritual body and let the yin qi around him dissipate. There is only one end for doing so, and that is to lose his soul. Just when the Ghost City Lord's hand was about to touch his body, I flashed and disappeared instantly. When I reappeared, I had already held his hand firmly. The Ghost City Lord looked at me in surprise. I said to him, "Look at the person you have been protecting." Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 494. After hearing what I said, the Ghost City Lord looked behind me. I saw the ghost people kneeling on the ground looking at the Ghost City Lord with sad expressions. "City Lord." One of the ghost people shouted hoarsely. "We don't blame you. Without you, City Lord, we wouldn't have lived with our families for so long." "Yes. City Lord. If it weren't for you, we wouldn't even be able to say goodbye to them. Not only that. City Lord, you were the one who fed and clothed the entire city while we were alive. We don't blame you." The ghosts and common people spoke to each other, talking about the past. I also learned from their mouths what kind of person the Lord of Ghost City was during his lifetime. When the Lord of Ghost City was alive, he was approachable, had a breeze on his sleeves, and treated the people like a son. Everyone in the ancient city has received his favor. Under the leadership of the Ghost City Lord, the people live and work in peace and contentment, with ample food and clothing. However, due to the misjudgment of the Ghost City Lord, no one in the entire ancient city was able to escape. Everyone died here. After that, Zhao Mian found the Ghost City Lord and told him that he had a way to bring everyone in the city back to life. But it will take thousands of years to achieve this goal. The Lord of Ghost City, who loves his people like his own children, agreed to watch it without even thinking about it. Zhao Mian erased the fact that everyone was dead and allowed these people to continue living here. But the Ghost City Lord never expected that Zhao Mian would use everyone to nourish the dragon bones. The matter is over here. The ghost city lord looked at the people in the city with a sad expression. His eyes were very special, looking at the ghost people was like looking at his own relatives. In this way, the ghost city lord and all the ghost people were taken back to the underworld by the Yin soldiers. Muqing and Xiangyi stood side by side. Xiangyi said to me, "I can only help you here, because there are still things in the underworld, and we ghosts must be here." I nodded towards Xiangyi and said, "Thank you very much, Mr. Xiang. I will burn the Yangma that I promised you last time in 2 days." When Xiangyi heard this, his eyes widened and his pupils trembled. Muqing grabbed Xiangyi's ear and cursed, "Xiangyi, I found out that you are really brave. You are still thinking about Yang Ma." Xiangyi kept wailing. The more Muqing thought about it, the angrier he became. The strength in his hand increased and he directly carried Xiangyi into the gate of the underworld. Xiangyi opened his mouth slightly in my direction and cursed. Then it disappeared together with the gate of Hades. The entire ancient city instantly fell into deathly silence. There was only an unknown formation shrouded in the sky. Su Tianqian raised his head and looked at the large formation in the sky and said, "Lu Su, try to take back this formation." I was slightly startled, and at the same time I looked up at the magic circle in the sky. This magic circle shows no sign of dissipating at all. Could it be said that this magic circle will never disappear at all? If this is really the case, I can completely take this magic circle as my own and use it for my own use. I took a deep breath, opened my hands, and felt the connection between me and the circle again. After feeling it for a long time, I finally touched the thin line between me and the magic circle again. I opened my eyes suddenly and held my hand towards the void of the magic circle. The huge magic circle shrank in an instant. Finally it became the size of a palm and floated in the palm of my hand. Seeing this, Su Tianqian continued in my ear, "Put this magic circle into the secret heavenly barrel and store it. You can use it when you need it." I nodded, summoned the heavenly secret barrier, and then sent the magic circle into the heavenly secret barrier. The moment the magic circle touched the heavenly secret, a voice suddenly appeared in my ear. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 495. Ha ha ha. You finally made it here. When I heard this voice I froze in place. This voice, I've heard it before. That is the Taoist priest who gave me the soul of Mount Tai in the belly of the dragon. Who are you? I asked again. The Taoist priest smiled heartily and said, "Don't worry, sooner or later you will know who I am. This magic circle is called Golden Light Killing, and it can kill all evil spirits in the magic circle." The Taoist priest was silent for a moment and continued, "This magic circle contains half of my life's cultivation. I will give it to you today. I hope that you will become more and more courageous in the future. To surpass me is to surpass yourself. To surpass him is to surpass myself." This is another nonsense. As soon as the Taoist priest finished speaking, a powerful force filled my whole body. But my body didn't reject this power at all, as if this power belonged to me. "Lu Su, please stick to your heart and stick to it no matter what happens. We will meet again." The Taoist priest's voice gradually became distant and finally disappeared from my ears. When I came to my senses, I had regained my sight and hearing. I stretched out my hand and looked at my palm. Now I feel that I have endless power. Is the Tao of half a lifetime acceptable? I couldn't help but feel a little happy. With this half-life of Taoism, I wouldn't be so at a loss when facing Zhao Mian again. I looked at Su Tianqian, opened my mouth and said, "Master, I'm sorry." Su Tianqian glanced at me lightly, and then said to me, "Stretch out your hand." I quickly stretched out my hand. Su Tianqian bit her finger and was about to draw a symbol on my palm. When I saw her first gesture, I even pulled my hand back. Su Tianqian looked a little stunned, and soon I saw a strong look of displeasure in her eyes. "Stretch out." Su Tianxuan's voice was a bit colder. I shook my head at her and said, Master, don't draw the 8-character blood evil for me anymore. Su Tianxuan's pretty face turned cold and she didn't say anything, just staring at me quietly. This time, when I faced her gaze, I didn't dodge it, but instead faced it. Master, the evil spirit in my body has been temporarily removed. Since we are temporarily withdrawing, sooner or later there will be an attack. Stretch out your hand. Su Tianxian was interrupted by me before she finished speaking. My attitude was very firm. No, no matter what you say today, Master, I will not let you suffer the pain of evil spirit entering your body for me. And, I am no longer the Lu Su I used to be. Su Tianxian didn't seem to expect that I would talk back to her. Master, I have been working hard to become stronger until one day, I will protect you and everyone around me. I looked directly into Su Tianxuan's eyes. I don't know why, but when Su Tianxian heard my words, his eyes seemed to dodge. She nodded slightly and didn't say anything. I looked around and discovered a problem. That is where Lu Hangxuan went. I asked the question in my mind, and Mr. Ma took a step forward and said, the Lu family's grandma has absorbed the dragon bone and is currently shedding her skin. Maybe she will become a real dragon because of this dragon bone. I nodded. As soon as Mr. Ma finished speaking, there was a crisp sound of footsteps behind me. When I turned around, I saw that it was Lu Hangxuan. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanba. Chapter 496. Lu Hangxuan's whole body temperament has undergone earth-shaking changes. Just standing there gives people an invisible sense of oppression. But I can still see the tenderness that belongs to Lu Hangxuan in her eyebrows. Lu Hangxuan reminds me of a character in the TV series, that is Bai Sohen. Nature is kind, gentle and generous, with a bodhisattva heart. Yu Xian quickly came to Lu Hangxuan and asked, Taina, has your strength recovered? Lu Hangxuan nodded, and Yu Xian's expression became a little lonely. He said, Taina, now the entire Lu family, except Luan, has been captured by that dragon. Yu Xian said guiltily. Lu Hangxuan frowned slightly and said in a gentle tone, it's okay, it's not your fault. Then Lu Hangxuan looked at me and said, I know where they are, and we must find them as soon as possible. If we wait for that dragon to absorb the souls of my people, it will be difficult for us to stop him. When Lu Hangxuan said this, a bone-chilling chill shone in her eyes. I nodded and said, okay, let's leave now. Lu Hangxuan returned to my body again. Although she only lives in my body temporarily. Existences like Lu Hangxuan have their own court. Chuma immortal, to put it bluntly, is to invite gods to take over the body. The great immortal does not always live in the body of Chuma disciple. When Lu Hangxuan returned to my body, she suddenly said in my ear, Lu Su, there seems to be something wrong with that keel. I asked, what's wrong? Lu Hangxuan was silent for a while and replied, I don't know, I just feel something is wrong. Maybe I am paranoid. Is there something wrong with the keel? Could it be that Zhao Mian tampered with it? This is something I have to pay attention to. Lu Hangxuan told me that Zhao Mian and Jiaolong were probably in the immortal cave in Qipan Mountain. According to legend, Lu Dongbin, a famous Taoist from the Tang dynasty, once practiced in this cave until he became an immortal. At the same time, Lu Hangxuan also told me that this journey will not be smooth sailing. Because that dragon was once the king of demons. All the spirits obeyed his orders. And now 4 of the 5 immortal families have sided with the dragon. We will definitely encounter obstacles along the way, so we must be careful. I told everyone what Lu Hangxuan said word for word. Several people nodded after listening. The ancient city of Goguryeo is located near Tianke, and Kipanshan is still some distance away from Tianke. So we can only hurry on as quickly as possible. We passed Tianke and then went deep into the woods. As Mr. Ma walked, he drank and hummed a tune. Looking at his relaxed look, it seemed as if he didn't take the dragon thing to heart at all. As I was walking, I suddenly smelled a disgusting stench. I subconsciously covered my nose and asked, "What is this smell? Why does it smell so bad?" I originally thought someone would answer me, but all I received was deathly silence. I frowned and looked around, suddenly frozen in place. Because Su Tianxian, Ma Gongzi, and Yu Xian were all missing. This is impossible. They were right next to me just now, how could they disappear in such a short time? At this moment, I suddenly saw a yellow figure not far away. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 497. The yellow shadow rushed towards me at an extremely fast speed. The pale moonlight poured down, and I clearly saw a weasel running towards me. The strange thing is that there is a rabbit riding under this weasel. The weasel is majestic, and the funny thing is that the weasel has a broken hat on its head. A child's diaper was tied around his waist, and he was covered with a rag. This scene seemed particularly strange in this atmosphere. The weasel rode the rabbit and came to me, looking at me closely with its dark eyes. I stood there and looked at the weasel coldly, and we faced off like this for a while. At this moment, the weasel jumped off the rabbit, stood upright, stretched out its two front paws, and bowed to me. Then I heard the sound of a weasel. "This fellow, you think I look like a human being or a god?" When I heard this sentence, I immediately understood what was going on. In front of me is a yellow-skinned creature that has become a spirit. Weasels ask for seals, frogs cannot talk about the sea, and summer insects cannot talk about the ice. According to folklore, if a weasel wants to become an immortal, it must be given a title, otherwise it will not be able to achieve enlightenment. No matter what you answer it, this weasel will haunt you until you die. I slowly raised my hand and pinched Leiju, but he dared to touch my head. "I will never let you become a god in this life." Just when I was moving Leiju bang like a weasel, a hand suddenly appeared and grabbed my wrist. I turned around and saw that it was Mr. Ma. He shook his head at me and whispered in my ear, "You can't kill this yellow guy. There must be more than just this yellow guy around. If you kill him, the other yellow guys will notice. Wait a minute, it's going to be very troublesome." I don't know why Mr. Ma suddenly appeared next to me. But now I can only listen to Mr. Ma. Because Mr. Ma knows 1,000 times more about demons than I do. Huang Pitzi asked again, "Fellow, you think I look like a human being or a god?" I looked at Mr. Ma. He pondered for a moment, raised his head, and then what he said next completely shocked my jaw. "I think you look like a little Lolita with blonde hair and animal ears." I looked at Mr. Ma in surprise. What an answer! I didn't expect Mr. Ma to be so lucky. The weasel was obviously stunned. Mr. Ma saw this and said, "Don't you understand? To put it another way, I think you look like a black donkey whip with 3 eggs." The weasel froze on the spot again, then let out a strange cry, mounted the rabbit and left quickly. After the weasel left, I gave Mr. Ma a thumbs up and said, "Mr. Ma, I really belong to you." Mr. Ma chuckled and said, "When encountering this kind of situation, you have to say some random things, but I'm just forcing it back temporarily. It will definitely come to pester us in a while. Let's take advantage of this time to get out of here quickly." I nodded, and Mr. Ma and I ran away. While running, I asked, "Master Ma, what happened just now? Where are my master and the others?" Mr. Ma replied, "You have been distracted by the weasel's stinky fart, and now you have separated, but you don't have to worry. With your master's strength, you can easily deal with those yellow-skinned people. I suddenly realized that no wonder Su Tianqian and others disappeared after I smelled the stench. The two of us were running through the woods at high speed, and we didn't know how long we ran. Suddenly there was a rustling sound in the surrounding trees. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 498. Taking advantage of the pale moonlight, I looked. I saw countless yellow shadows running back and forth on the branches. Suddenly, a yellow figure jumped directly towards me from the tree. My steps stagnated, I turned around suddenly, picked up the 9 layers thunder art, and blasted towards the yellow shadow. Thunder and lightning exploded, hitting the yellow shadow solidly. Then, I heard an animal scream. Mr. Ma also stopped because the two of us were surrounded by countless weasels. These weasels had a fierce look on their faces, and their small eyes flashed with bloodthirsty light in the darkness. Looking around, almost the entire forest has the shadow of weasels. It was so dark that it made people's scalp numb. A sneer rose from the corner of Mr. Ma's lips. The Huang family looks down on people so much that they let these little bastards stop us. These weasels are obviously not good enough. If the Taoist practice was profound, he would have transformed into a human form long ago. I said to Mr. Ma, let's get rid of these little bastards quickly and get out of here quickly. Mr. Ma was about to nod when the next moment, countless weasels jumped out of the darkness. Before Mr. Ma and I could react, we were overwhelmed by these weasels. Oh my God! Don't bite my ass! Mr. Ma shouted in pain from the side. These weasels bit, scratched and scratched us. Although his moral character is not high, he is very difficult to deal with. I silently recited the golden light mantra in my heart, and the next moment, dazzling golden light burst out from my body. The powerful force directly knocked these weasels away. Mr. Ma also used his own methods. He shouted loudly, and also knocked back the weasels around him. When I saw this, I picked up Leiju. With that Taoist priest's half-life cultivation, I have been able to superimpose the Thunder Ju to the 4th level. There is a world of difference between the 4th level Thunder technique and the 3rd level Thunder technique. I even felt like I could attract thunder. If you practice the 9 layers Thunder art to the extreme, you can break away from the control of your palm. In this case, Leiju's attacks can be diversified. Light blue lightning lingered around my body. I slowly raised my right hand and then lowered it. The lightning swirling around me spread out around me. These weasels were directly burned to a crisp and lifeless. But even if so many weasels are eliminated, there are still many of them. Mr. Ma cursed loudly, damn it! Look at this behavior. Weasels from the 3 northeastern provinces are here. Mr. Ma's words are not unreasonable. Because of this group of weasels, some were killed and a large number came up. Continuing like this is not an option. I grabbed Mr. Ma's arm, opened the 9 Eyes heavenly domain, and then disappeared in an instant. When he reappeared, he was already 15 meters away. This time I didn't feel any powerlessness. It seems that the Taoist priest's half-life cultivation has brought me great benefits. Mr. Ma and I looked at each other and ran away. Behind him, a mass of black weasels were chasing after him. At this moment, a cold female voice sounded out of thin air. Get out of here. The voice was filled with supreme majesty and coercion, and the weasels' movements froze, their round little eyes darting around. Finally dispersed. Seeing this scene, Mr. Ma and I breathed a long sigh of relief. The person who just spoke was Lu Hangxuan. With Lu Hangxuan's identity and strength, it was very simple to fight off the weasel. Mr. Ma said to me, let's leave quickly. These weasels are just appetizers. Something may happen in a while. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 499. I nodded. Mr. Ma was right. The two of us walked quickly through the forest. Not long after walking, the outline of a small temple appeared not far away. Master Ma and I stopped, looked at each other, hesitated, and walked towards the small temple. There is something strange about the sudden appearance of a small temple in a barren mountain. But there is no way, because this is the place we must pass to go to Zionren cave. Only when I got closer did I see clearly how dilapidated this small temple was. Walls collapsed, ruins were in ruins, and there was no roof. Looking into the small temple through the moonlight, there is nothing inside, without any statues for worship. Mr. Ma and I did not stay here any longer. Just when I passed by the small temple, I heard a rustling sound coming from the small temple. Mr. Ma and I paused in our steps, and turned around at the same time, and saw a weasel riding a rabbit running out of it. Behind him was an old man wearing a fur hat. We didn't see this old man in the small temple just now. When Mr. Ma saw this old man, his pupils trembled violently and his whole person became a little nervous. The old man came to us, looked at us calmly, and then slowly said, "You are the one who killed my clansman? So that he can't turn into a human form." I was about to answer, but Mr. Ma stopped me. He took a step forward and said with a somewhat respectful tone, "Master Huang-san, it was your juniors who attacked us first, so we took action against them." Mr. Huang-san. According to legend, his original name was Huang Tianba, who specialized in exorcising demons and ghosts, and was in charge of the entire Huang family. Mr. Huang Santai has two magic weapons. He holds an 8-section whip in his left hand, with the upper part used to beat gods and the lower part used to beat ghosts and gods. Holding the yin and yang soul lamp in his right hand, he flashes the yang and the yin. Now his brother Ma is the 16th generation. It would be terrible if the old man in front of him was really Mr. Huang-san. At this time, Lu Hangxuan's voice sounded in my mind. The old man in front of me is a ray of soul left by Mr. Huang-san. I just wanted to take a breath, but Lu Hangxuan's next voice made my heart suddenly rise to my throat. Although it is just a ray of soul, his strength cannot be underestimated. If I must say it, Mr. Huang-san in front of me can exert 40% of his actual strength. 40% strength. That's the legendary immortal family that got ascended. Mr. Huang glanced at Mr. Ma, then was slightly startled and asked, "Are you from the Ma family?" Mr. Ma nodded and said, "Yes, Mr. Ma is the 27th generation descendant of the Ma family." 27th generation descendant. I had a close relationship with you, the 7th generation head of the Ma family, before I ascended. But you killed so many of my clan members today, and I will definitely make you pay the price. Mr. Ma subconsciously took a step back and said, "Master Huang-san, if I guess correctly, you will definitely be punished by God if you take action rashly." Mr. Huang's expression changed slightly, and then he raised a sneer at the corner of his mouth and said, "God's punishment, since I dare to say such things, I naturally have a way to escape from God's punishment. Today I must make you and this boy pay the price." As soon as he finished speaking, a powerful aura spread from Mr. Huang-san's body. This smell made me break into a cold sweat instantly. Mr. Ma also retreated step by step. It was obvious that he was very afraid of Mr. Huang-san. Mr. Huang-santai slowly raised his hand, his figure flashed behind him and disappeared instantly. I just felt the strong wind whistling in my ears, and the next moment I was knocked out. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 500. I struggled to stand up from the ground, feeling secretly shocked. Huang-san Tai's 40% strength is so terrifying. If it weren't for that Taoist priest's half-life cultivation, I'm afraid this blow would have seriously injured me. Mr. Ma had just grasped the magic spell with both hands when he was slapped back by Mr. Huang. Seeing this situation, I took a deep breath and opened the nine-eyed heaven. Black as ink appeared out of thin air, shrouding Mr. Ma, Mr. Huang, and me. When Mr. Huang-san saw Juyan Tianyu, his expression became a little surprised. Nine Eyes Heaven Realm. Who are you? I didn't answer Mr. Huang's words. If I want to leave here alive, I must defeat Mr. Huang. I stretched out my hand, and the rich darkness condensed into shape instantly, rushing towards Mr. Huang-san like a tide. Mr. Huang-san subconsciously stepped back. I raised my right hand and activated the soul-stealing blood hand. Scarlet blood slowly spread out from my right arm, and then surged toward the inky darkness as if there was life. The moment blood came into contact with black, the darkness like a tide turned blood red. In the sea of blood, there were faint sounds of ghosts crying and wolves howling. The sound is eerie, as if someone is whispering in your ear, making your scalp numb. Countless pairs of scarlet ghost hands were tumbling in the sea of blood, and some even stretched out their hands to grab Mr. Huang. All this happened so suddenly that Mr. Huang-san had no time to dodge and was directly submerged in the sea of blood. Mr. Ma took advantage of this moment to slowly stand up, hold the seal of inviting God's Jew again, and then muttered something. I was not idle either. I took out the evil suppressing seal, then picked up the sword and pointed it at the evil suppressing seal. The next moment, countless golden words burst out from the bottom of the seal, like a golden Buddhist scripture taking shape. The golden words were submerged in the sea of blood. Suddenly, Mr. Ma next to me suddenly burst out with a terrifying momentum. I looked at him and found that his originally black eyes were shining with golden light at this moment. The two of us stared closely at the sea of blood, with unprecedented seriousness in our eyes. The sea of blood churned for dozens of seconds, and I suddenly felt an extremely powerful momentum coming from the sea of blood. Immediately afterwards, Mr. Huang-san's voice sounded in my ears. Boy, I can't believe that you have so many methods at your disposal. You are really difficult to deal with. Suddenly, the sea of blood churned and exploded, and a weasel's furry head emerged from it. The golden hair looks particularly eye-catching in the dark night. The demonic power around Mr. Huang's body increased greatly, and the invisible pressure spread towards Mr. Ma and me. These strange ghost hands can actually hurt me directly. Boy, where are you from? Only half of Mr. Huang's body emerged from the sea of blood. His lower body was still in the sea of blood. It seemed that Huang-san Tei would not be able to break free from the sea of blood in a short time. Mr. Ma and I looked at each other, and we both understood the intention in the other's eyes. I suddenly stretched out my left hand, firmly grasped Mr. Ma's arm, and then pinched Leiju with my right hand. My body froze, and Mr. Ma and I disappeared instantly. When we reappeared, we were already behind Mr. Huang-san. 4 levels of thunder appeared from the palm of my hand, and the electric python as thick as a bucket dispelled the darkness and illuminated the surrounding area. I rushed towards Mr. Huang-san without any hesitation. At the same time, Mr. Ma clenched his fist and hit Mr. Huang-san. Because Mr. Ma and I had the bonus of the Nine Eyes Heaven Realm, we were extremely fast, even Mr. Huang-san could not react. Thunder and lightning exploded, swallowing up Mr. Huang in an instant.